back to Becoming Bohemian. This week is going to be great. We're talking about philosophy this week, and in particular about Transcendentalism, and in even more particular about Henry David Thoreau. But before we do that, let me talk just a little bit about this. So I've discovered something really fun I just wanted to share with the community. I am a tea lover. I love tea, and what I'm about to say may sound scandalous to fellow tea lovers and tea enthusiasts and experts out there in the wonderful world of tea. I have found a way to sort of cheat and trick the system when it comes to iced tea. It is summertime here in San Francisco, and so it is allergy season, and my throat is suffering. And so one of the things that I love to do is I'll just plop a couple of tea bags into a glass and fill it with water, and before you know it, the essence of the tea has seeped into the water and has flavored it just beautifully. It's given it that nice hint of taste, and I just don't like drinking water straight. I'm always someone who likes to add a little pizzazz to my water, and my preference for any kind of beverage is usually tea. And so staying hydrated and trying to kind of fend off the sore throat from the allergies, this has been a godsend. I will say my favorite flavor to date is this one, and it's kind of ironic because it's actually one of their cool winter herb teas. I think it's only available around Christmas time, but it's called Peppermint Bark, and it is by the Republic of Tea. This one is so refreshing. It tastes like drinking an Andes mint. So I just wanted to put that out there. It's sort of Christmas in July over here in my little world, but it really has brought a lot of joy to my life. So I thought I would just put that out there just in case anyone else would like fast tea and doesn't have time to wait for it to steep and brew and then cool and then add the ice. You don't need to do that. You can skip right to just plopping the tea bags right there in the water. So, tip of the week. Anyway, moving on to our topic. Thoreau. Now, several of you maybe you know about Thoreau, and maybe you were able to read the blog post that I posted about him and about his philosophy. For those of you who don't, we're going to just kind of briefly review a little bit about him and why he is important in sort of the context of Bohemianism. So for starters, he was born in Massachusetts, back east in the US, and he went to Harvard. He was from a very intellectual family, and after his studies, he became a school teacher, and he also became a friend of Ralph Waldo Emerson and Bronson Alcott, and a number of other intellectual philosophers and writers in the area. And these writers and philosophers all sort of formed a group and formed their own philosophical practice and ideology called Transcendentalism. Now, what is Transcendentalism? You're probably asking, and that is a very good question, and it's one that I don't think I fully grasped. Even in high school, we were required to read Walden, one of Henry Thoreau's most famous works, and we talked about Transcendentalism, and I didn't fully grasp it, but I think it's important to learn about it or think of it in terms of the context, of the historical context of when it sort of came about, because I think that kind of shares why and a little bit of the what to it. So the Transcendentalists were all about sort of transcending beyond the sort of Western European cultures of the past and creating their own culture and their own writings. They were, I think, tired of only reading works of literature from England, say, and other parts of the world. They felt they were here at this birth of the nation. You know, the Revolutionary War had just concluded and they had their independence from England, and they thought, you know, we have something to say and we have something to lend to the world of literature, and so they got busy creating these philosophical works and these literary works so that they could help develop this culture outside of cultures from the past. And inherent within that culture is freedom. You know, that's something that is very traditionally just very American. We talk about freedom a lot. And so that colors a lot of transcendentalist philosophy, this idea of freedom, personal freedom, and freedom from oppressive governments, and freedom to govern yourself by the dictates of your conscience and the sort of divinity within you. They were very much about equality, and most of the Transcendentalists were abolitionists. They wanted to free the slaves, and this is pre-Civil War. So they participated, in fact, Henry David Thoreau himself participated in the Underground Railroad and was very active in his anti-slavery movements in his area. And so they also were very much pro female and pro women at a time that you know was not necessarily in vogue. Many of them did go on to become very strong supporters of the woman, the rights of women and women equality and votes for women. And so I think all of those things, the activism, the desire for, you know, education and literature, writing and art and developing culture are all sort of Bohemian characteristics, traditional Bohemian characteristics, as well as this sort of nomad culture that's often associated with Bohemianism. Henry David Thoreau did spend time on Emerson's land near Walden Pond, and he lived off of the land primarily. He also lived off of the good graces of his friends, but he really felt that civil disobedience was everyone's right, that when the state imposed things unfairly on its constituents, that it was okay for civilians to sort of rise up in rebellion and for civilians to shirk society, to leave society, to kind of go off the grid and to embrace a more natural sort of living and lifestyle. He felt it was important to really listen to your gut, and he really felt, and other transcendentalists like him felt, that there was goodness and greatness inside of every human being, and that it is everybody's life's quest to really discover that goodness and that greatness in themselves and in everyone else. There was some romanticism involved in transcendentalists and idealism as well. They did draw on some German philosophy. In fact, the philosopher Kant was very instrumental in them creating their philosophy. So that's just a little brief, I guess, rundown history of Transcendentalism and Thoreau. And I wanted to end with a quote by Thoreau. Let me just pull that up, that I feel is really, it beautifully captures a kind of bohemianism and the nature aspect of bohemianism. It's just so lovely. He says, "As a single footstep will not make a path on the earth, so a single thought will not make a pathway in the mind. To make a deep physical path, we walk again and again. To make a deep mental path, we must think over and over the kind of thoughts we wish to dominate our lives." I think that in many ways is what my blog is about. I think in order to sort of create a new path, one that really embraces life's beauty, art and philosophy, it does take effort, and it takes steps, and it takes putting one foot in front of the other over and over and over again to really create that path that kind of transcends beyond maybe what society says is success, or society says is beauty, or society says you need, you know. I think Bohemianism is all about, just as Thoreau said, one thought at a time, repeating those similar thoughts, or having those thoughts lead to this path that you're consistently walking down to try to change your frame of reference. And as you do that, the path forms and you're able to chart a new course. And so I'm so excited to kind of chart this new course toward becoming Bohemian, and excited to have you with me. And hopefully you'll read the blog post if you haven't. Hopefully you'll subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out our social media and the blog. And I'm so thrilled to have you on this journey, and can't wait to talk to you more next week. So take care, everyone. Have a lovely week, and we'll see you soon.